I'm Stephanie Oden. Welcome to the Quiet Impact Podcast. And this is where we nurture, inspire, equip, ignite, and empower introvert leaders and business owners just like you who are making waves quietly and with impact. And I am thrilled to be able to bring to you another one of our Spotlight Achiever guest interviews. I like to bring people in front of you that will help you move to the next level of success, whether it's building your leadership skills, embracing who you are as you move to the next level, and growing as a business owner and entrepreneur. I know when my guests come on, I lean in too. So let's dig in, shall we? Welcome to the Quiet Impact Podcast, where we nurture the journey of introverts who desire to achieve greater levels of influence, income, and impact. The go-to podcast for introvert achievers just like you, seeking purpose-driven growth. I am your host, Stephanie Oden. Welcome to the Quiet Impact Podcast, where introverted achievers learn how to amplify their presence, profit from their purpose, and lead without compromising their peace. We're not shy, timid, or needing to be fixed. We're an introvert, and that is our superpower. Introverted AFF. Absolutely fabulous and feisty. Today, I have another Spotlight Achiever guest with me, and I encourage you to lean into what's being shared, get out a pen and paper, make sure you make notes, make sure you follow our guests, because when I bring guests on here, I lean in too. I become the student as well as the teacher, and that's part of this journey. So today I have with me Mr. Tom West.
Good morning, Stephanie. Thanks for having me.
Yes. I met Tom at an event that we have here locally. I mean, if you're local to Indianapolis or Kokomo or area, I encourage you to find them on LinkedIn. It's Lean Coffee Indie. I encourage you to tag into that community because, especially for those that are wired like us, I am a testimony that you will not leave that event drained. And that is saying a lot. You'll leave energized. But let me get into some of the bio stuff. And, I get ahead of myself. I get excited with my guests. And so let me get into the bio. So Tom is the owner and operator of Green Dot Consulting Group. It's a small continuous improvement company that is obsessed with installing improvement cultures. You had me at cultures. He's been addicted to culture shaping powers of continuous improvement for about 18 years now. So ever since he was formally introduced to the practice in grad school. For him, continuous improvement has become a way of empowering people to be able to do their best work. And I absolutely am in alignment with that. And that's an alignment with a lot that we share on this podcast. So tell me a little bit about you that is not in the bio.
So the introduction of, being addicted to continuous improvement actually is a bit rosy, because when I was first introduced to it in grad school in my operations class, it was presented mostly through a textbook, like a traditional curriculum was. When I read about continuous improvement, to be honest, I wasn't that excited about it. Thankfully, part of that program was hands-on project experience. And I think as I, went from learning about it in the textbook to actually practicing it in real life, that's really where it really clicked for me. So I think you'll meet a lot of people in the continuous improvement space who now are addicted to it, but I bet you if you ask half of them, they'll probably tell you they were apprehensive to start with. And I'm definitely one of those people that initially I didn't love it until I started to utilize it to influence change through a volunteer project. So just keep that in your back pocket. If you hear someone in quality, you hear someone in continuous improvement, just know that it has probably taken them years and they're probably still continuing to understand everything that's encompassed in that body of knowledge. Aside of my love for continuous improvement, I have a major passion for running. So, when I talk about continuous improvement, I say I'm nerding out. I also nerd out about running. I've been in that sport since I was in grade school. In fact, in order to play dodgeball in the elementary school that I went to. In order to do it, you had to run cross country. So I
What?
love dodgeball. Yeah, I love dodgeball. So I guess I had to run in order to do it. And it's just a great outlet for my energy. Pretty energized little kid. I had a lot that I had to burn off, and running was one of those things. And I've stuck with it my whole life. It's really helped to create a very healthy lifestyle, but it's also helped me to create a community of people that I can just really lean on when needed. Other than running, I'm also trying to see all the national parks. So that's definitely my peaceful place is getting out into. Um, I haven't done many of the ones in the northeast yet, but Southwest has been just surreal. It feels like you're on a different planet. So those are some of the things that really uh, get me going and keep me refueled. Those are the things I do when I need to be recharged. I go out and run or take a trip, get out into the parks, and it's like magic. You just feel re-energized as a result of being in those spaces.
And you do. I agree with that. Now, I'm not the whole outdoorsy person, okay? Someone told me I needed to ground and hug a tree once, and all I could see was the ants in the tree. I was like, well, we'll be not
Yeah,
grounding today. There will be no grounding, tree hugging today. And I absolutely can go with what you're saying on running. And I don't run now, but I used to run. And it there's just some it just takes you to a place. Just
absolutely.
takes you to a place to absolutely recharge. Now, recently I did the what was that nickel plate tour thing where you ride the bike.
Yeah.
Have you done that?
No, I haven't rode a bike since my Ironman, like maybe 7 years ago.
Oh,
I,
okay.
yeah, me and bike riding are still on the fritz. I don't know.
Okay. I'm with you. I'm with this was a good one because it was on the train track and four people in a car. So it wasn't really like exercising. It was more
Ah,
like enjoying the scenery for 3.5 miles down and back. And that was the perfect amount of pedal outside,
yeah.
people enjoy, chill out. Yeah. And fall, it's fall here in Indiana. And so, well, it went from fall to winter, but that's a whole nother
Overnight.
story.
That's how it
Right?
goes here. Yeah,
All right, so okay, I got off topic, but I'm back now. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. But that's the thing about having guests on. You want to have it be. It's a
absolutely.
conversation, like we're having conversation, a little coffee chat. Now, tell me a little bit about what you do when it comes to your business and how do you help your clients?
Yeah, we have a couple of legs to our business. We have a kind of community facing where we're really engaging with other improvement practitioners. We call them improvement nerds. So
I'm
our
one.
website, yeah,
I'm an improvement nerd
an
and
improvement
proud
nerd.
of it. Thank you.
Yeah. So to really support and build that community, we do a podcast, which is the Improvement Nerds podcast. And then you had mentioned in our kickoff the Lean Coffee events, which happen on a quarterly basis here in Indianapolis. And those are opportunities for individuals in the improvement space to come together. We say it's kind of like therapy. Improvement work is very rewarding, but it's also very challenging as well. And I think if you don't surround yourself with individuals who are in that same space and can learn from them and also draw energy from them, your journey for leading change and leading improvement can feel pretty lonely. So that's one part of our company is the improvement nerd community and what we do to support that. The other part is the actual consulting business, which is the green dot. And for our clients, we say we do a couple of things. We really think it's important for organizations to develop an improvement muscle. So we call that the improvement know-how. We spend a lot of time with the people who do the work, the sharp point of the organization, uh, really trying to understand their processes and working with them to develop some of the skills of an improvement person. So we say you got to take them from a tool set to a skill set to a mindset, and just give them the comfort and the confidence to practice these improvement techniques, to really take ownership of the processes that they perform every day and try to leave them better than they found it. So outside of the improvement know-how, um, you're going to go from maybe having a lack of ideas in your organization to now an abundance of ideas, because you have that improvement know-how, you have the psychological safety, and people are more forthcoming with their ideas. Now you need a system, an improvement system to coordinate those initiatives and help to see them through to completion. So that's kind of the second tier of support we provide to the organizations, is in improvement systems. And then the last one is, has those systems allow you to kind of quantify your impact. You're likely to realize that a lot of the improvements you're making are about running your business more efficiently, and you're not necessarily doing strategic projects to change your business. So that's the third tier, is strategic partnership, is really helping your organization to design strategy and fully cascade it, connecting the dots across your organization.
I like that. Those are very, very comprehensive. And I like your focus on community because that's important. It can be very lonely when you're in that continuous improvement world because if you are in continuous improvement, you fight battles almost consistently and you feel like, well, I have to be the only one. But, providing that community that you provide says, wait, I'm not. And it gives, my experience, it gave us a chance to keep sharpening our skills, right? I mean, with you mentioned psychological safety. It's important for us to have psychological safety as well because we need to be strong as we're going against some of the obstacles we may face when we go into companies. And I really liked your skill set. Skill set, it was
Tool
skill
set,
set, tool
tool
set,
set.
and mindset.
Yeah, tool set is the improvement tools, whether it's process mapping or thinking about the forms of waste. They're, to most people, the first time you hear they're just abstract. They don't really make much sense. Then working with a partner, a mentor, a coach to like practice them
Mhm.
is where you start to strengthen that muscle a little bit. So it goes from a tool to a skill of, and I would think about my work in the form of a process, or I know how to describe my work in the form of a process, to, the later on, the mindset of everything we do is a process,
It,
and
it is.
the
It is.
processes can be improved. So yeah, that journey from tool set, skill set, mindset is one of those that we get really excited to lead people through. That light bulb moment, everyone's light bulb goes on for a different reason, but when you see it go on, that's what gets me really jazzed up, is they've had that aha moment, and now they have empowerment. Because empowerment is actually two things, right? It's the um, invitation, it's the accountability to do something, but
Mhm.
oftentimes people don't have the ability to do it, right? So
Right.
within their organization, they may be held accountable to provide excellence customer service, or reduce cost of operations, or improve the quality of their work, whatever it might be. They're being held accountable to that, but they don't have the ability to do it. They don't have the coaching or the toolbox to actually achieve those goals and objectives. So instead of empowerment, all you've created is anxiety. So for us to really partner with people and help them achieve the goals that they've set for themselves personally and professionally, and even those goals that have been set for them by their organization, we think the improvement know-how is critical. It's a critical ingredient to help people make a difference in their work.
I was doing a presentation last week and I talked about culture and I talked about systems. And I threw them off a little bit when I said, and by the way, did you know we're in sales and marketing? And their mouth was
Um,
like, what? Oh,
a
trust
hundred,
me. In the
hundred
arena that
percent,
we're in sales and marketing. And so that aligns with what you said. I mean,
a
empowerment.
hun-
You agree? Would you agree that we're in
oh
sales
man,
and marketing?
100%, right? We're has change agents. Oftentimes in organizations, URI has third party consultants, but even change agents internal to the organization trying to make change, they don't necessarily have the authority to enforce that change. So they have to rely on influence without authority,
Yes.
which is really why I think the improvement community is so important to foster and develop, because that their influence is more of an art than it is a science.
Hmm.
It's very much behavioral. You, as the change agent, you have to be calm, cool, collective. You can't present yourself in a way that you are panicked when, it's hitting the skids. You gotta somehow demonstrate resilience and adaptability, even though you in your own head might be freaking out. You, as the change agent, got to stay focused. You got to stay optimistic in front of the teams that you're leading, and that takes a lot of energy to do. So, being around other improvement people, they totally get it. They know what it's like to stand in front of a project that's near the cliff and have to think tactically, how do I get it back on track by bringing a cool demeanor to this work,
Hmm.
and really help this team that may be stressed or anxious find stability to move forward. So it's to though come into a situation where the team's in despair and move them to repair. That's where it's addicting, though, to say, hey, the energy I brought to that team put them in a different spot, and that's something that's very rewarding to do as a facilitator, to take them from stressing out to striving and moving forward. And I think that's change of energy. That's the exchange of energy.
Hmm.
You give them calmness and they give you excitement, and it's reciprocal, and it's great. It's a great space to be in, but it's not all rose-colored glasses. It is challenging.
It definitely is. And one of the things that for me is, especially if it's a company that they're stepping out on a limb a little bit, they're bringing me in, they're not quite sure, and letting them know that it might get messy before it's a masterpiece,
Mhm.
and being able to get through that phase of it, that it's going to look ugly before you start to see it. I just need you to, sales and marketing, I need you to be able to, I promise you that we've seen it, it works, you follow this, and it will get the results that we want, or we adapt. I mean, that's the other part of it. And back to mindset, it might not come out the way we expect the first, second, or third time. But what are we gaining from that? And I think that's the culture that is that we look for, to know that our teams are starting to click. It only
Yeah.
takes one spark, typically. One team, one spark, sometimes one person that has that influence in the team that can shift things. And we're in tune to those, right? We're in tune to hearing those voices of those people.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when you're consulting and advising on who's the team to put in a room I believe improvement's a team sport. I've never come into an organization and give them an answer. Most of my career was in healthcare, and I'm not clinically trained. So when it's come to leading change, I've always had to rely on the people on the team that was given to me to be the ones to do the problem solving. So
Mhm.
when you're going through and you're doing team selection, most people's tendency is to not put the disgruntled employee or the naysayer on the team. And I seek them out. I want them on the team because I believe oftentimes there's been a misinterpretation of what that person's goals and objectives are, and they may see resistance, but oftentimes I realize what it is a hunger for change, and you just have to give them a language to talk about the change they want to see and give them a pathway to make those changes in a pragmatic way. And if you can do
Mhm.
that, that person on the team tends to be the catalyst for everyone else to find their own creative spark to move that team, move it forward to a solution.
Yeah. And I've had that. I have absolutely had the situation where people on the team will say, no, don't invite so and so because, but really, when you hear them and it's communication, right? When
Mhm.
you sit down and you listen and you explain to them in a language that they get it,
Mhm.
typically they're very smart and they know their stuff, but they may not communicate in a way that's nice for the rest of the team.
Yeah.
So, but when you win them over, they're going to be the best ambassadors for keeping your projects on track because that's been my experience. When they are on
Mhm.
track, you will follow the process because they bought in. So, absolutely, absolutely. I won't say that I've always sought them out though immediately, but when
Mhm.
we look to add on the team, after I get to know my teams and the people, I'm like, okay, I think they might be a good addition to the team. And you know what? Sometimes time I've seen they feel honored, like they've been tagged as the grumpy one, and nobody wants to talk to them.
Mhm.
But when
Yeah.
we go in and pull them in, they're like, oh wait, I'm valued here. That's just been my experience.
Right. They're it's not that I'm seeking them out or intentionally recruiting them to make an example of a change in someone's energy. It's I'm reaching out because I know that person's energy has been pent up for a long time, and I think I have a way to unleash it.
Mhm.
I think that frustration that they're feeling connects closely to what we've created as our tagline is we like to wage war on bad process because it's through process that people are able to achieve the goals that they've set for themselves. I think people, when they get up in the morning to go to work, they have good intentions. You know, they want to spend that time and energy doing something that they could feel proud of. And sometimes bad process is what prevents them from doing that. And day after day after day, if those broken processes are preventing them from making progress on something that's important to them, that's going to wear and tear on that person. So I
Mhm.
think if you can come alongside them and, you know, show that you understand the situation they're in and the burden that they're carrying and invite them to pivot just a little bit in their mindset of like this is always going to be this way. This is, something that is never going to change to well, the changes you've tried to institute, maybe you haven't followed the right formula. If you could be open-minded and following this technique, I think that you're going to find progress in a different way so that we can take these processes that are holding you back and actually redesign them to propel you forward. And even the smallest little change is where that flywheel really starts to take root and momentum gets built. I think continuous improvement is the best employee engagement strategy that ever existed because everyone wants to make progress on something important.
True.
And continuous improvement is that engine that helps you do that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. In your experience, what have been some of the key moments that have led you to where you are now?
I, for myself, I'd say it's been a journey. I'm still on a journey. So to talk about the experience of being frustrated by work, the excitement of being empowered and having ownership to make a difference through your work, that what I would say is altruism was something that was very dormant in me through my education. So I'm a math person where I grew up in Northwest Indiana, still mill country. Like, the joke was making fun of people who went to art school or who liked reading, because what created success in our territory of the state was engineering and data and analytics. So I excelled in math and I went to school and I studied business administration and accounting and finance. I actually have a master's degree in finance. So for the longest time, like I had only really strengthened my analytical brain. I didn't even realize that we had an emotional brain as individuals. And, even when I studied for my black belt, it was easy for me to pass because it was about statistics and a lot of analytics. Like one of the questions was calculating net present value. Like that was to me
Easy
simple.
peasy, right?
Yeah,
Easy peasy.
yes. Like at the point of when I took the exam, emotional intelligence, psychological safety was not even in the body of knowledge. And then along the way, as I practiced as an improvement practitioner, that I did what I knew, which was rely on data to lead the project, lead the teams. And I received very important feedback that although the projects were successful, the teams weren't as engaged or excited as they could be if I had talked to the head and the heart, right? So they started to coach me through the team I was on started to coach me through practicing empathy, and I had a very dormant side of me that I didn't even know existed, the altruism and even creative side. You don't think too many people who have a master's degree in finance are a creative type, but for those people in the improvement nerd community, our logos, our slide decks, our website, our newsletter. If you look at other improvement people's content, I don't think it's as vibrant and playful and colorful as ours is. And that's very intentional because I think for this stuff to work, it has to be very approachable. It has to have a heart, it has to have a personality. And that was a big pivot point for me, was to realize that in the improvement space, what they described as the soft side of change. So the hard side is the tools, the techniques, the
Yeah.
analytics, the data plan, all that stuff. They call those the hard skills. The soft side is, making connection, establishing trust, listening to and practicing curiosity, practicing empathy. Those things I've really challenged myself to try to master. And I feel like I've built my consulting business around being very people centered. And I think because of that, we have a very unique proposition as a consulting group. And I love the work I get to do because I feel like we're unleashing the creative potential of a workforce that has otherwise been pent up.
Mhm.
And the results, what an organization is able to achieve is always above and beyond what they think is possible because the people who are doing the work, they have brilliant ideas we just haven't found a way to tap into yet. I think that was one of the defining moments for sure, was where I started to realize it was okay to be a person of two brains, to be analytical and emotional at the same time, and find where those things intersect and lead from that position. I'm not
I
saying leave your head at home. I'm not saying lean all on your heart. Find a
absolutely.
way to do a good, healthy blend of both.
I agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. And that's another area that not knowing we align, I think we just align on because as an engineer, I, I knew for a long time that I was very heart centered and
Mhm.
had that soft side. Well, engineering is not that way, right? It's
No.
very hardcore and go in and all of those things. And for me, it was, hey, I know that I'm heart centered and I've been forced into this engineering world
Hmm.
and I'm okay at it. But the shift didn't happen for me until I put both of those together and was okay with it. Like I am okay being both of those and knowing that's that's where a gift comes in, being able to operate in both of those areas because we have to, right? We have
Hmm.
to talk to the things that are important to the leadership, and we have to bring our heart to talk to the people that are on the team. Like we have to bring both of those pieces, and it
Absolutely.
helps being aware. So I acknowledge you for being able to sit in that space and change, adapt. I won't say change, adapt to embrace all the pieces to make you even more effective at being an agent of change. I really admire that piece of it, and it shows. It shows in your marketing, in your newsletters, and all the things that you do. As an introvert,
Hmm.
Did not know this when we initially talked, but I thought, you know what, I just got to have him on the show. And as an introvert, which I found out that you are, how has it helped your success being an entrepreneur? How has it helped your success?
I would say because I don't want it in some ways, like because I'm the unlikely candidate in other ways, like the wallflower, the um I think I'm a case study for getting out of my comfort zone. I don't want to stand in the spotlight. I don't like to speak in public. Um, and even talking on podcasts is things that I've had to just do and trust that I can do them well and borrow a little bit of confidence from my future self that I could be someone who stands in front of an idea and speaks about it with energy and passion. And, initially that was something that terrified me. I've hosted a podcast myself, and we've rolled that over. And now Mark, who's also an introvert himself, he's the host of that. But before he took over, I was getting out of my comfort zone, and I was interviewing people, and I was being on podcasts, I was being interviewed, and I still, when I stand in front of a group, I shake and feel the nerves.
Mhm.
So because I don't naturally do those things, um, I have to be more intentional about them. And I think that's what the intentionality of doing the things I don't want to do to really practice getting comfortable being uncomfortable is just created a lot of evidence for me as to this can be done. And now it's initially it can be done versus now it should be done, right? Because I'm realizing there's a too many people to count. I don't even know how to estimate people who have not got out of their comfort zone but are full of hidden brilliance that has been untapped. And I continue every day to learn something new about an ability I didn't even know I had. And I think because of that, I can talk to other people who they themselves haven't started that journey of getting uncomfortable to say, look at me, I'm scared shitless.
Right.
And every single day I realize, that's the emotion I'm chasing is uncertainty and fear because that's where my greatest growth exists. And if I could do it, you can do it kind of thing. And I think introverts kind of need that example of one of their peers who has found the courage to get uncomfortable to do something that um, was very significant. And to me, that's what this business has become. We say we pursue significance over success. Is we're trying to make a difference through the work that we do to empower people to make and lead change. And because we've somewhere along the way, someone did that for us. And this is our pay it forward philosophy of it's out there, it's untapped, and we think we have a key to get that thing open.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I will lay something out there, how I look at it. I would get annoyed at people saying get out of my comfort zone. Kind of would piss me off a little bit. And the shift for me was when I was being interviewed for a book, and they were talking about, success and what made you successful. And I said, well, what really has helped me is expanding my comfort zone.
Mm, absolutely, yeah.
And same thing, but different, right? I am because growing up in the career world, it would scare me. Like I found a way to exist, abide, and do all the things, be successful, and you're like, but wait, you want to rip all of that away and say you have no ground to stand on? I didn't like that.
Hmm.
But the shift was if I can go from my comfort zone to a growth zone, that's an area where I'm curious because I'm naturally curious. And
Hmm.
I would think, hey, I wonder if I could do a little bit more, a little bit more. And ultimately, I ended up expanding that zone. Like it became more a bigger and bigger comfort zone a year from now, where I was a year ago, because I've expanded into a growth zone and I didn't go straight from comfort zone to oh crap zone. Hang out in that place of, well, just maybe there's a possibility, and I'm curious. Uh, and then I'm the opposite. I can speak to large crowds, but man, getting in small environments, I am socially awkward. I just being like, I don't know. I get weird and just being in those small, little environments, possibly because I can't hide in that experience, right?
Mhm.
Because I have to show up in that experience, where if I'm speaking on a stage or something, there's almost a barrier in a way that you kind of see me but you kind of don't, right? I can put on my invisible shield. And I love how, a lot of people want to put the label of being an introvert in this box of we're all this or we're all that, but we have such unique experiences, and we're alike in a lot of ways. We're introspective, we're reflective,
Mhm.
we're very smart. So if any extroverts are listening, I'm sorry, we're actually smarter, but we let you appear to be. So I like how you shared your experience of getting out of your comfort zone and how that has helped you. And also sharing with the listeners, if you've heard that like me and you're like, oh no, I can't. I encourage you to switch your language and
Yep.
change it.
Yeah.
Let's expand it. Find that anchor piece related to where you want to go and step into that. That's been my experience.
I believe that's the language I wanted to use, but didn't in what I had said. It's absolutely that where we have this perception of our comfort zone as this square with very hard lines, and you're either in it or you're out. But really, it's not a shape at all. And there are no lines. There's just kind of shades of transitioning from what you feel comfortable doing to what is challenging you to grow to figure out how to do.
Mhm.
So I think that's a wonderful mindset to adapt. I would think one of the books that really helped me in navigating that transition from being behind the scenes as an individual contributor to a person who owned a business and was trying to convey the message of that business. That book that really helped me um, think differently about what I could and couldn't do was Brené Brown's book, Braving the Wilderness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a very um, good story about what your body, your mind, your emotions are going to do when and be attuned to those things when you are in a state of growth.
Oh, wow, that's good. You just
Yeah.
dropped a nugget right there. I'll have to make
Wonderful,
sure to
wonderful read.
put that in, because I have Dare to Lead. I have the one Atlas of the Heart,
Hmm.
but this one is going on my next list. Like I
Yeah.
need several books on my list at one time. I don't know. I listened to several of those, but thank you for sharing that, because I think not only will I benefit, I think the listeners will benefit too.
Yeah. It's one of her lesser known books. I believe it was early career
Okay.
for her, but it is marvelous. And for people who are hypersensitive to think about the thinking that they're doing, and sometimes that can lead to anxieties and
Hmm.
because it did for me, it still
Hmm.
does for me if I
Hmm.
get too caught up in thinking about the future or too hung on my past instead of staying in my present.
Yeah.
That's where I get stuck is when I think too much. There's a
Yes.
blend of
Yes.
overthinking and
Yes.
underthinking, and
Yes.
I think her book really did a wonderful job of talking about the sensations you're going to go through as a person who's intentionally seeking out growth.
And I am glad that you shared that, because even though I said, hey, I can speak to group, that still doesn't mean that I don't have all the all the things in my head of would I, could I, should I, can I. Like it's a whole thing happening up in there,
Hmm.
even though it's an area that I know is one that's a little bit more comfortable for me. I'm still like nervous and shaking, like all those things. And I think it's important to embrace that as part of the journey and be real, talking to new companies. I think that's important to be aware of that. And it's okay. It is an okay place to be. And hey, your permission. Tom and I gave you permission to be in that space of growth. Let's switch it up a little bit. Tell me how you make that shift from being employee to entrepreneur because it's a different mindset being
Hmm.
an employee versus being an entrepreneur. Not saying that everybody listening needs to go out and hang up an entrepreneur shingle, okay? I'm not saying that. But as you're considering it even part-time, I think it's important to hear from real people that have done that.
For me, before I was an entrepreneur, I was an intrapreneur. I was trying ideas for leading people through change within the organization I worked with and testing, could I be a person who creates a model that can work, that can really help organizations transform.
Mhm.
So I was very curious about how change happened, and I approached it in a very experimental way to find out how did it work in different environments with different stakeholders. So it was a very large health system. It's here in Indy, but it spans a lot of different geographies, and each geography has kind of a different culture. So, you know, when I would work in the east side versus the west side or even the north side, the approaches I would use in other situations wouldn't work
Mm.
uh, if the culture wasn't accepting of that dialogue or that approach. So, I think I was definitely practicing being a consultant uh, while I was fully employed. So that then led to moonlighting. So I guess transitioning from an employee to an entrepreneur is almost back to what you and I talked about, is it was very small intentional steps into my growth zone
Mhm.
to collect evidence that this was something I could do. And
Mhm.
even with all those small baby steps, when it became time to take the leap, I didn't want to do it. I um, was hesitant, apprehensive, and thankfully I surrounded myself with people who knew my goal and knew that when it came time to take the leap to go after my goal, that they were going to have to be the ones to shove me out of that nest. So, that was definitely my wife is that person. And funny enough, the person I reported to, my boss previously was that person too. That kind of, think of a kid who doesn't want to go to summer camp, the
Mhm.
uh, dragging of the heels, the procrastination, the like clinging to the car frame when you're dropping them off. Like, as the parent who knows that they're going to grow tremendously by being at camp independently on their own,
Mhm.
they literally sometimes have to drag them kicking and screaming. And that's kind of what it was like when I took my leap, is I was dragged into it kicking and screaming because although I felt prepared, I also feared it more than I should have. And I'm thankful that they said, "Hey, Tom, for this opportunity that's in front of you, you just have to ask yourself, if not you, then who? And if not now, then when?" And that kind of did it for me, is that little kick in the pants to say, "You've been practicing this. Now let's put that practice to the test here. And if you fail, it's going to be the most learning you're ever going to have. Really, failure isn't failing until you quit." And at this point, I haven't quit. I just keep learning, I suppose.
Yes. And it's important to surround yourself with people on the entrepreneurial journey.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
because it can be a lonely place, and it can be a place where we spend a lot of time overthinking, like you exactly like you said, overthinking the past
Hmm.
and not putting enough attention on the future if we don't get in communities that support that. Because every day is not a rosy day as an entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
the payoffs are great, but there's some days when I know for me, I've questioned, did I make the right decision to
Hmm.
step out, and when I call myself a free agent, did I make the right decision? And you know what? Even if we choose to change, and this is for my entrepreneurs as well, if we choose to change.
Hmm. Yeah.
That just change. We
This is the only thing constant is
we can
change.
change, right? We can change, and it's okay. And it doesn't say anything about us or our goals or our dreams, and it's not a failure, and it's not any of those things. It's we're a better person because of how we have done it. That's again sharing my insight because I've had people that have stepped out into entrepreneurship, and they had to go back and take a more steady opportunity.
Hmm.
So what? Doesn't say anything about you.
Right.
It just doesn't say anything. Um, what are three things that you would like to leave our audience with? I mean, this has been, I feel like you and I could have a longer conversation just because every you would say something and I hear growth mindset and self-awareness, and I'm like, wow, even
Mhm.
even to the point of when you said from success to significance.
Hmm. Yeah.
That was my tagline. My first round in business was to shift from success to significance. So my ears were perking. I was like, okay, he's like way cooler than initially thought. He's like way up there on my list. So share like three last things with our listeners that you think would be some areas to really focus on to kind of hone in and wrap this up.
Yeah, I mentioned it early on in our conversation. I believe strongly improvement is a team sport. I talked about running and being a cross country runner, and a lot of people perceive like the top runner is successful because of their innate individual abilities, and I don't think that's ever true. It's not that runner doesn't always want to show up to practice and always push themselves, but the people on the team who are showing up too, who don't want to do it either, but find a way to move forward is a very positive energy. So I think by being on a team sport like that helped me kind of appreciate that improvement works in the same way, whether you're trying to institute a project within an organization, really make sure you have a team involved and that team is supported with psychological safety and good facilitation to navigate that change and even self-improvement. I gave you the example of me taking the leap. In order to do that, to have that courage when push came to shove, I knew I was going to chicken out. I had surrounded myself with people who weren't going to let me.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, the team I surrounded myself is why I'm here today and very thankful for them. Uh, we talked a lot about mindset, I would say. So the second thing is that your mindset really matters. That's really the only thing you can control in any situation. Even when you're feeling fearful, anxious, or having anxiety, and your mind's running way, way ahead of you, by just changing that mindset and grounding yourself and where you are and what's really happening and being present in that makes a big difference.
Mhm.
And I think if you, as an entrepreneur, you can get way ahead of yourself. But if you can just say, what has happened thus far? What's the evidence I've collected so far? Where am I right now? What difference am I making? I think being grounded in that and adapting that mindset of I can grow through this. I can practice curiosity about the things that scare the heck out of me. I think those are critically important to being a successful entrepreneur. Is none of us have all the answers, but we have to. practice curiosity to do what feels right and just kind of keep doing right feeling things until it all makes sense,
Mhm.
realizing it probably never will. Like that's just how we're always going to navigate life is we're in a sense following those right feelings. And when we get to wherever we are, when we look back, although they maybe didn't make sense when we navigated them, they all served a purpose and they added up to really put you where you are. So I think adopting a mindset like that is really, really important. And then also, in our space as an improvement person, I think for me, realizing at what is at stake for the work I do has been really important to say, hey, through my consulting, through my coaching, through my mentorship, I'm really trying to multiply people and help them amplify the impact that they make. And I feel very proud of that. I feel like I'm doing really important work. And I realize that it's important because I'm helping them do something important. So I think really connecting what you're doing to how you're serving someone else is another key takeaway. So improvements of team sport, your mindset matters, and just find a way to serve. Serve someone else, and you're going to feel so much more joy in what you're doing when you're serving.
That's so good. So good. Tell the best way to connect with you and your team and your community.
Yes, so we talked about LinkedIn. That's probably the most active we are in regards to all the social medias. So LinkedIn is a great place to find us. Lean Coffee Indie is one of the groups on there, but the Green Dot Consulting group's on there. Of course, I have a personal page as well. I think sometimes they make it easy to find us if people just type in improvement nerds, that you're likely to come across some of our content, or people who's in our community. So LinkedIn, Improvement Nerds is
Okay.
a great place to find us. Even if you type in improvementnerds.com, you're going to find our podcast on there. But then I guess those would be more for people who are looking to be part of the Improvement Nerd community. For those who are looking for training, development, or even consultation, the best place is to find us on our website, which would be
Okay.
the Green Dot Group.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for spending time with us on the Quiet Impact podcast. And for my listeners, I encourage you to find his podcast and listen to the episodes, like, subscribe, share them, become a part of the community, because definitely you've heard some things that uh, today that you want to hear more from Tom. I'm just saying you do. So make sure you get in his loop, in his circle. And again, thank you for joining us, and share, like, and subscribe. And we look forward to joining you next time. Take care. Bye now. That's it for this episode of the Quiet Impact Podcast. Thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Let me know any insights that you had from this episode. I would love to hear your takeaways. Remember to head to my website, grab a copy of the Success Pillars for Quiet Achievers. It's a resource I created for you. And join us next week. Thank you for watching, listening, and subscribing. See you next time.